First, the countries of the region made remarkable progress in the 10 years or so after the NATO intervention in Bosnia in 1995. But in the last 10 years, these past 10 years, the U.S. effort to pass the baton of leadership to the European Union has allowed slippage. In Bosnia, Kosovo, Serbia, and Macedonia, there are now risks of instability that could trigger a region-wide convulsion. That would reflect badly on America's global leadership role, unravel 3 peace agreements, and cost us far more than conflict prevention. Second, those who say ethnic partition through rearrangement of borders would be a viable solution are playing with matches near a powder keg. Moves in that direction would lead to violence, including ethnic cleansing, crimes against humanity, and even genocide. It happened in the 1990s, and it could happen again. Monoethnic states cannot be achieved without a massive and expensive peacekeeping deployment. Ethnic partition would not only be violent, it would also generate a new flood of refugees and creation of Islamic mini-states in parts of Bosnia, Kosovo, and Serbia proper. This was a main reason we refused to move borders in the 1990s. Americans should be even more concerned about it today. The Islamic State and Al-Qaeda have had more success recruiting in the Balkans than many of us thought possible given the pro-Western and pro-American attitudes of most Muslims in the region. Reducing Balkan Muslims to rump monoethnic states would radicalize many more. Damage would not be limited to the Balkans. Russia would welcome ethnic partition because it would validate Moscow's destructive, irredentist behavior in South Ossetia, Abkhazia, Transnistria, Crimea, and Donbass, as well as give Moscow a stronger foothold in the region. It would also leave a geographic gap in NATO and the EU that we have long hoped would be filled with friends and allies. My third point is this. I see no serious alternative in the Balkans to the political and economic reforms required for each of the countries of the region to be eligible for NATO and EU membership. All want to join the EU, which unfortunately will not be able to begin admitting them until 2020 at the earliest. That leaves NATO membership as the vital carrot for reform except in Serbia. We need to do more to enable Balkan countries that want to do so to join the alliance, as Montenegro is doing right now. Let me summarize what this really means. In Macedonia, it means Europe and the US need to tell Greece the FYROM will be invited to join NATO once it reestablishes transparent and accountable democratic governance. In Kosovo, it means ensuring Pristina develops an army designed for international peacekeeping that poses no threats to Serbs. For that, Serbia will need to accept Kosovo's sovereignty and territorial integrity by allowing UN membership. In Bosnia and Herzegovina, NATO members should tell Republika Srpska secession will gain no Western recognition or aid for it or any country it joins, including from the IMF and the World Bank. These and other suggestions in my written testimony would put the region back on track and prevent the peace agreements of the 1990s and 2001 from unraveling. So too would ensuring that all Balkan countries have access to energy supplies from countries other than Russia. Natural gas from Azerbaijan, LNG from the US, or eventually Mediterranean gas from Cyprus or Israel. Mr. Chairman, I've just outlined a substantial list of diplomatic tasks. If the administration commits to them, implementation might require an American special envoy. But a policy should come first, one based on maintaining current borders, preventing ethnic partition, and pushing hard for NATO and EU membership. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I think we get the Golden Cup for being right on time. Okay. I will start the questions, and then we will move from there to Mr. Meeks. Mr. Bartos, you're the first time, you have used for the first time the words that I know would eventually emerge. The words, the new Cold War. I don't know who wants it, but somebody wants war with Russia. I mean, it's more than just a fear of Russia. Somebody wants there to be a new Cold War. I have spent a considerable part of my life trying to defeat the Soviet Union, and both in the White House and out in the field against Soviet troops, etc. And I started anyway, when I was a teenager. But the bottom line is that we don't want a Cold War. The American people don't want a Cold War, yet we have an unrelenting hostility that says that we have to watch out for even Russia's influence on a region. I see no reason why Russia shouldn't be able to sell energy to any country that it wants to, or if any other country. I don't see that as a hostile act to the United States. Let me just note, if we're going to solve this, we got to do this. We got to move forward in a positive way, rather than looking at this as some kind of we're going to do this so to screw the Russians. That's not going to bring about a better world. But we know something needs to be done in the Balkans because it's not working. And just like you said, Doctor, that when the EU took over, basically some of the major leadership from the United States, things started going haywire. And it's continued to go haywire for the last 10 years. So with that, why not make a different kind of approach rather than having us, as I say, I think that what's motivating us is there are some very powerful moneyed interests in Europe that want to see the Balkans towing the line that they dictate.